So let's see if you like the way I tried to infuse a couple of different skills to a cell phone situation that we had a few years ago. Have I told you about my Molly? She's my baby. She's 20 years old now. She's in her third year at Michigan State. So this story goes back a few years ago when she was a high school senior and she was 17 years old. And Molly and I, we have a really good relationship. We have fun, we laugh. She has a wonderful sense of humor, at least I think she does. It's a little twisted. We both amuse one another. We tell stories, we laugh, we like to do things together. Still, isn't that lovely? I'm lucky. And so when she was 17, this thing came out of the blue. I wasn't expecting it. She just got a little snotty. She just got a little disrespectful. And she said a couple of things to me in some conversation after dinner that night that were just way out of the norm for her, clearly disrespectful language. And I was upset about it because this just wasn't something I had to deal with very much with Molly. And I knew that I was upset. I said to her, I got to think about this and calm myself down. That's not appropriate. I'm going to come back and talk with you in a little while after I'm calmer. I'm going to deal with something that's not an appropriate way to talk to me. I went and I calmed myself down. I said to my wife, what's going on? Is there something going on with her? She said, she's a teenage girl. There are moments. Does anyone here besides my wife observe that there are just moments that teenage girls have? And I couldn't really explain it, didn't know where it was coming from exactly. So I got myself calmed down because I love this kid so much. I was just sort of upset that somehow we could lose that kind of relationship we have. Okay, I just better deal with it. Calmed myself down. A little while later, I came in and I talked to Mal and I said, Mal, that wasn't appropriate the way you were talking to me. And I've never played this card before as a parent, but that's not appropriate speech to me. Having your cell phone is a right, it's a privilege, it's not a right. And you just lost yours, so give me your cell phone. I'll give it back to you after a few days. I'll decide how long I'm going to keep it. It won't be too long. She didn't like it one bit. Can you imagine kids giving up their lifeblood, their connection to Facebook and their connection to Twitter and their connection to WhatsApp and all the other cool stuff that's out there? You know how much time kids spend with that screen, right? And so her connection to the universe had been taken away. She didn't like it. Clear body language was angry, her face was upset. She didn't say anything. She stomped off. A little while later, I saw her walking around, and she didn't look angry anymore. In fact, she looked a little smug. In fact, she looked like she had that little shitty grin on her face that made me worry a little bit. And I wondered to myself, what she looked, my antenna went right up. And I ran up to the bedroom where I had put her cell phone to see if maybe she had taken it back. No, it was still there. But something about her made me look at this a little bit more carefully. And so I took her phone out of the bureau of the dresser where I had put it up in my bedroom, and I checked it. And I had turned it off before I put it in my drawer. And I checked it, and I saw that it had been turned back on. And so I checked it a little more carefully, and I saw that the alarm had been turned on. And I checked the alarm, and the alarm was set to go off using the loudest, most obnoxious ringtone in the world. She had gone somewhere online and gotten this crazy, screaming, loud ringtone, and she had set the alarm to go off in my bedroom drawer at 2 a.m., 2:15, 2:30, 2:45, 3 o'clock, 3:15, all through the night. She had...
She's creative.
How many of you like kids like this? And when I saw this, it just made me smile. This little stinker is trying to get me back. At which point it becomes a challenge. And so I took that cell phone and I didn't turn it off. I put it in a little box and I got some packing tape and I wrapped this little box completely with packing tape. And then I found a second box and I put that box into the second box and I wrapped it completely and tightly with packing tape, the kind of tape that you use when you're sending packages through UPS or the mail. And then I looked around and made sure she wasn't in her room, and I snuck into her bedroom, and I took the package in the 2 boxes and stuck it in the very back corner behind her bed, where you have to move this big heavy bed to get to it, and I knew that it would be a big job. A little later that night, I went to bed, thinking about the wonderful things to come. At 2 o'clock, instead of having that nasty alarm go off in my bedroom, it started going off in her bedroom, and I heard the muttering, and after a little while she found it, and I heard her trying to move the bed, and then she had to go find a scissors to cut open the packing tape, and it took her all of about 10 minutes to cut the darn thing through and turn the darn thing off. It made me smile. Next morning at breakfast, it's just Molly and I at the breakfast table. And I don't say a thing about it. And she's too proud to say a thing about it. But you could see her kind of looking at me, and after a little while, she just smiled. She said, "Does this mean I get to keep my phone?" I said, "Nope, not for a couple of days yet." And she handed it back. Do kids actually like to know that there's a strong adult around who can handle them without getting all crazy angry? Does that actually make kids, in the scheme of life, they don't like losing their cell phones, but in the scheme of life, does that actually make kids feel a little calmer and even a little more connected to you? And you all know the answer.